Hello and welcome to FPL the Onion episode 18. It's the usual duo, myself, Ash, and joined by Nick. Nick, how's it going tonight?
Good evening, sir. Yeah, all good. Although I've just seen that we've just been discussing that De Bruyne has just hit a sub 25-minute hat trick, and neither of us own him. So that's great. It could be on for like 6 or 7 returns, and yeah, I'll drop straight out of the top 100k. I think.
Yeah, it is a pretty brutal swing. Along with the, I don't think we were recording when Cash did the business, did he? But it just instantly springs to mind 29 points for a double that we didn't get. It's painful, isn't it? When you just think, oh, it's so obvious, City in a double. Why wouldn't you get the most expensive asset?
I know. Although I guess with Cash, nobody had considered kind of captaining him, and he was probably super low owned. With De Bruyne, it's a very different story, isn't it? But it could be much more than 29 points in the double.
Yeah, I've not actually, although we've got quite a few slides tonight, and I had to set up the top 10k one. I didn't really absorb how highly owned he is. I guess we'll come to that in a bit, but yeah, that could be quite a killer. Probably not on my rent, but yeah, that's going to be a bit of a bummer for you, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame as well, because I guess with the amount of stuff that we consider each week, with changes, etc. I had considered, one of the moves I had considered was De Bruyne and Jesus in for Ronaldo and Mount, and obviously with hindsight now, that would have been a much better move and I would have captained De Bruyne. So yeah, pretty painful. But anyway, we've jumped right in, and I think you kind of wanted to do more of an intro, I guess, didn't we?
Well, no, it's fine. Yeah, just thought I'd go straight for the jugular, talk to you about KDB. Sorry about that. We've got the usual video flicking in and out for yourself, so sorry about that to anyone that's viewing, but that is a bit of a norm. Yeah, I thought I just listened to the opening episode of a new podcast today, which we'll cover probably quickly when we talk about what content, and they did the not massively inspiringly or not massively clever reminder of what they're actually about and who they are. So I thought we'd just spend 30 seconds doing that for anyone new that is listening to the content, because being a free hit week, it could be that quite a few people are going to be looking for content. They might think, who are these guys? So in very quick summary, we've got 18 episodes here of content, so you can find out a bit more about ourselves. But yeah, we're two fairly normal guys living in the south coast of south of the UK, let's say, chatting FPL every week. And I think one of the main things we're trying to do is just help each other and share thoughts on what we've absorbed during the week on Twitter, on podcasts and so on. And then also, I'm probably a bit of an overthinker, so for sure, stats are going to come into it, season reviews and stuff, bouncing ideas off each other. But yeah, basically just two mates chatting about FPL, and we've got quite a history. And we were looking at it the other day, weren't we, that our ranks have been fairly one way through our 12 season history, but most recently, and especially this season, you're absolutely killing me.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I just really enjoy doing these, because I find that I'm there kind of tinkering away in the background all week, and then we chat through things, and you'll always come up with a different way of looking at things, or a different angle that I hadn't really thought about, and then we make all our decisions, and then just based on pure luck, something good happens or something bad happens. So it's all good.
Yeah, correct. And just as well on an upcoming thing which I touched on there for sure, and again, I don't know if this is just because we are without a full season under our belt of doing this, and it might completely kick the energy out of us, but I've certainly got a few ideas for some at the beginning quite basic season review episodes that we can do, just to look back at how things have gone with some of the tools that are out there on Twitter and FPL internet sphere. But it'd be good maybe to go a bit more deep into those, depending on how much time we have over the summer. But for sure, part of me might think, actually a rest is going to be much more welcome. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to some of those pods as well. I think they'll be good just during the downtime, and then when the game relaunches and we can kind of get into creating the content again and planning for next season. I think this will be this will be invaluable then, and we can look at drafts and look at players who might be good value. And obviously there's a few, there are going to be a few new additions to the league, Haaland being probably the most exciting. But obviously there's a full transfer window to come. So yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, Haaland announced, was it yesterday? But yeah, just to timestamp this, we're on Wednesday night recording, obviously during KDB's mad start to the Wolves game, and big North London derby tomorrow. So it's a very interesting week of FPL. It's the biggest double game week ever, I think, isn't it, in FPL? So this has been quite a big
one. To timestamp it further, Vardy has just scored for Leicester against Norwich, so he is back and a potential option now for Gameweek 37 free hits.
Yeah, that's it, cemented. Yeah. Did we mention him last week that if he got some minutes, we might be tempted? Maybe that's a podcast I've listened to. But it was
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I feel like we did mention it, but yeah, he needs minutes, doesn't he? And then if he's getting them tonight and he's scoring against Norwich, then maybe he is an option because they've got that great double home fixtures, haven't they? So
yeah, I'm not trying to big ourselves up there. Obviously, it's not a massive call to go for an expensive Leicester option, but minutes has been the problem, isn't it? So if you get something tonight, it might be a tempter.
No, we should always take every opportunity to big ourselves up, Shlee. So.
What content have you listened to this week?
I listened to all of Planet FPL yesterday, and I even started listening to a bit of their Clash of the Correspondents. I think it's Crystal Palace against Everton.
Very good.
Haven't got through all of that yet, but I do think those are quite interesting. Or was it Palace? It might be Palace Villa actually, I think. And because the guy was talking about Coutinho and Buendia, and it's quite good. A good choice this week with obviously them both being potential options from those teams on free hits.
Yeah.
And then I think I listened to a bit of Andy's knee-jerk stream as well. But I guess with those, it's always difficult, isn't it? Because we're barely even halfway through the game week by the time that stream came through, and I don't think there's much else. I think Black Box are recording again tonight, aren't they, or streaming tonight? So look forward to listening to that.
The new one I listened to was have you come across I'm probably going to butcher his name, sorry, Sir Tal Chai, the guy behind FPL Optimized, and does quite a lot of optimized models and all that sort of stuff?
No, I haven't come across him actually.
He appeared on I can't remember how I first heard of him, but I listened to a podcast he did with two American guys. Is it Above Average FPL maybe? Is that hosted by two Americans?
Oh yeah.
That was more of an intro to it, and that was quite good. I'd say he's a Turkish guy living in I think it's in North Carolina in the US, but he's just done episode 1 of another podcast with what sounds like his FPL rival and friend who is Dutch but living in Belgium, and it's like they're doing 20 to 30 minutes each week, and they're going to certainly cover a topic each week on optimization, which is, I did get a bit down into it a few months ago, looking at some mad stuff that people are doing with Excel and solvers and all this stuff, and that's what sort of FPL review is based on, predicted points, but then also chuck your team in and do all this sort of stuff. So that was really interesting, and that's who sort of did a quick introduction, so I thought we'd pinch that idea. He's really good.
Yeah, it sounds like a good one actually, because it's always good to get something that's got a bit of a different angle on it. So
yeah, and they were laughing partly because coincidentally did you see that BBC episode that came out that was talking about, I think they phrased it as is it fair that AI is being used to play Fantasy Premier League, and they first of all clarified that AI is not really the right term for it, but it was quite good because it was in the public eye quite a bit, and I think the general consensus was people couldn't believe that people were thinking of using machines and coding and stuff to beat FPL, but also some classic comment, something like do people actually take FPL that seriously that they'd even consider spending that much time? And that made me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that you're gonna ever stop it, is there? So, and you'd think that until the models, that there will come a time, like with chess, I'm sure there'll come a time where the systems that are out there are going to outperform everybody, you would think. But It's just all about the inputs, the data into them, isn't it? Because something like Rate My Team is an algorithm, is a model, etc. And they're just going to be, once you can input all of the data into them, and they are more often than not going to spit out good picks. But I guess it's almost what we're doing by listening to all the content we listen to. We then have that in the back of our heads when we're making decisions. So we're hopefully we will beat the models for some time to come. But there are apparently loads of teams in the top 1K who have just literally made the transfers that a model has suggested every week. So
oh really? That's a bit upsetting. I'm not sure
it is, isn't it? Because I mean, you could literally, even if you just didn't take any hits all season, and you just, because the models, you can put in double game weeks as soon as they're planned in, and you can factor in those things, and they will just say, right, just bring in KDB before his double this week, and captain him, and off he goes and gets 30 points. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I admire the people that make the models, but then if it's going to be mass copied, I think that upsets me a bit. But then I don't know.
Well, I mean, eventually it might ruin the game. It might get to a point where I'm having a good season this season, but if I have a terrible season next season, I'll probably be blaming everyone who's using models and getting annoyed with it. And then if I'm in mini leagues where there's money on the line, I hate to say it, but I then might start factoring in these models and looking at them, and at least considering what they're suggesting in terms of a decision. So
yeah,
I don't think I would ever completely blindly follow what a model was telling me to do, because I enjoy the process and I enjoy looking at the information myself, and I enjoy getting the players that I like and have done well for me in the past, etc., etc. But yeah, it's just I guess it's another thing, because when you listen to Late Riser and what he's doing, or you listen to Mark Southerns and what they're doing, they are, like we've just said, to boil it down, they are like an algorithm themselves, aren't they? So
yeah. Well, that last bit does, make me feel quite a lot better about the whole thing. Yeah, certainly there's some negative bits to it that maybe I'm thinking about, but the fact people like Late Riser getting in Richarlison well early before his hauls come in, and some of the Maverick stuff that Mark's done in the past, that is very hard for a model to do, and gives me comfort that they're not probably going to be able to get those big swings so quickly. Yeah, they might be super consistent, and maybe on a boring week is when you think, right, what's the model doing? I'll maybe consider that. But between double game weeks and with chip usage, I think that's quite hard to model.
Yeah.
Do you want to just quickly explain how people can join our league, and then we'll move into the main stuff?
Indeed, yeah. So we've still a relatively small league, but we're hoping to grow it next season. But if you did want to join this season, nobody seems that keen on the curly whirly, because we haven't had any new additions for a little while. But the league code is on screen now, and for listeners, it's 0NPH6D, 0NPH6D. I think I'm still top of that league, but maybe Paddy Parr's got his captaincy on De Bruyne, and I'll be in big trouble. But if anybody wants to jump to the top of that league, add themselves, and even in Gameweek 38, and a curly whirly will be in the post.
Very good.
We might have to improve the prize next season, Shlee, if we're going to
maybe that's the problem.
New league entrants.
Yeah,
nobody wants the curly whirly.
Yeah, everyone's just waiting for the whisper. Vardy's got a second, 2 Barnes assists apparently. That's interesting.
Oh wow! I think Az got rid of Barnes, didn't he?
Did he? Don't blame him.
I think Az finally got rid of Barnes because he just wasn't starting, and now he's got a couple of assists. Nice.
Leicester midfielders have been super difficult this year, haven't they? Like Maddison went on a couple of really fancy runs with a few 10-pointers thrown in a row. I seem to remember, or maybe a couple, but predicting when it's going to happen is so difficult.
I think it was even more than that, because I think he did it in one game, and I thought, there's no way I'm getting him in. And then he did it in the next game, and I thought, oh, maybe. And I was like, no, it's still Maddison. And I'd owned him a few years ago when I'd had a good season, and ended up holding him for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and he just didn't do anything. It's just, I think Leicester generally have been really, really difficult this season, haven't they? Because their defense has been a nightmare as well. They haven't performed well. They've had loads of injuries, and we haven't been able to pick them either. But
yeah, because the season before was it that one when Soyuncu was a good option for a bit. But yeah, Europa League hasn't helped, has it? Them going really far in that competition, they've been really rotation prone.
No, exactly. Are they in the Europa Conference? Were they in the Conference League?
Yeah.
I think West Ham were in the Europa League, weren't they? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, exactly. Europe makes those teams that don't have the squads for it so difficult. I mean, we struggle a little bit with City and Liverpool, but when the likes of Leicester and Arsenal and those guys are in Europe and they go far, it's so difficult because they just haven't got the squads for it.
Agreed. So on screen is your lot for this week, which before tonight wasn't great. It was a bit of a red arrow, wasn't it? But wasn't too bad. But yeah, the one thing I was thinking tonight would be bad if City go nuts, and 3-1 with De Bruyne is not great.
No, and yeah, obviously even losing the Cancelo clean sheet. I mean, Cancelo doesn't really bolster my rank anyway. He's more of a shield.
I think City will be over 100% EO, won't they? So we're probably glad of that.
No, I think Cancelo isn't quite, because again, it usually takes captaincy, and I know some people would have captained Cancelo in a double, but I don't.
Not just Cancelo. Sorry, I mean with Laporte thrown in and Diaz. Well, Diaz.
Yeah, true.
Tonight, but
true. I guess Laporte. Yeah, that is obviously Laporte really hurt me in the first game as well. So, and actually, I wanted to talk about that actually because that was really interesting. I was so blinded by getting Trent back in.
Yeah, you said
obviously Liverpool having the double. And just Trent being Trent, and the fact that I could afford him by going Ronaldo down to Nketiah. And I think that is a really good lesson. I know Black Box are always talking about lessons to learn, but I was so focused on kind of spending the Nketiah. I wanted Nketiah over. I mean, maybe Jesus if I was going to get De Bruyne in, but we're always trying to spend the budget. And so the fact that I could get Trent in and I hadn't owned him for a few weeks, and I thought I've done really well not having Trent, and it just hasn't really hurt me. And he could still do really well in the last couple of games of the season, but Laporte, should have been just staring me in the face. And I don't think I really considered anyone other than Trent, which was really, really silly. And if I had done Laporte instead, I'd have had, an extra 3 million elsewhere, that maybe I could have spent, in Gameweek 38 on a transfer, etc. But yeah, I think also City going out of the Champions League in the way that they did, and I just didn't know whether they were gonna bounce back. And that Newcastle game again, now in hindsight, it looks really obvious because they are an amazing team. They were going to want to bounce back and hurt someone, and yeah, I just didn't really consider him. I mean, I think the Laporte goal was super lucky, but I think you were saying they've kept something like 6 clean sheets in 7 or something like that. So whereas Liverpool have actually been conceding the odd goal here and there, haven't they? I feel like those competitions now are really starting to tell on Liverpool.
Yeah. But what are you most annoyed about? That you didn't consider Laporte at all, or that you didn't consider him and didn't go for him?
I think both. I mean, I didn't just the fact that I didn't even consider him. I was just like so blinded by Trent, thinking, oh, he's gonna get a return. And yeah, it was just very, very disappointing. But
I mean, think back. The only thing I'm remembering last week was it's interesting because I do remember quite vividly because you were told about having a feeling for a player, and I don't know, maybe I was a bit zoff about that and thought as if I was talking to Late Riser, and I'm like, oh well, if I'm talking to someone like Late Riser who's got a feeling, you want to back that. And no offense, but you probably haven't proven yourself with feelings like Late Riser has. But it was a nice story to have that, and you were like, well, I've got just a feeling about it, and I guess it was the price you could get to him because we both sold him a while back, and we probably won't be able to get back to him. So I kind of get it, and you're right, the City narrative was there that they struggled in Europe. How would they react? They both had a double, but yeah, maybe on paper looking at it, Spurs, that could have been easily a goal conceded, and Villa with Gerrard, he was always going to make it difficult.
Yeah,
but
I think
he had 120 minutes, didn't he, Laporte as well? It's tricky to know. It's tricky to think back and think that was the right call.
Yeah, that's true, and that I think maybe if I had considered him, that would have definitely concerned me. But it's funny. I think I said on last week's pod that I could see Liverpool conceding both those games, and yet still I went for Trent. So it's to bring Son in, I did think that Liverpool were going to concede against Spurs, and then obviously in the Villa game anything can happen, and it's Gerrard and it's Coutinho and blah blah blah. But yeah, that was frustrating, and obviously Laporte really hurt me. And then because there's so many people on free hit this week who've got that treble City, and they've got Laporte, they've got De Bruyne. But then the Salah benching. I think did he get taken off early against Spurs?
Can't remember.
I can't remember. I mean, obviously the fact that the captain blank in these sorts of game weeks, where especially when De Bruyne is getting 25 points, is just going to be absolutely devastating. So I think the top 1K is looking really, really unlikely now. And obviously, if I'd had Son's points last week, and did my Jesus to, because as soon as I saw that I could go De Bruyne and Jesus from Ronaldo and either Coutinho, or I think it had to be Mount, but that looked quite neat. And yet again, I just got so focused on, I mean, Nketiah is great, and that he could score against Spurs as well, and that's I think that the -12 ironically has excuse me, has paid itself off, but the overall rank is bad. So it just shows that if the rest of your team isn't actually doing it, even though you're taking these hits and they're working, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to keep rising in rank.
Yeah, I think, although if you get double Chelsea clean sheet tonight, that's obviously going to pull you back. But I think that is maybe a reflection of the rest of you. Not that the rest of your transfers are weak, but maybe the rest of your team was weak. Coutinho has obviously been a nightmare, and double Chelsea instead of double City was not great.
No, I think the biggest lesson is I think we've got to try more often than not. And again, I guess you could miss it. Salah could have gone absolutely nuts and De Bruyne could have done nothing, but you've got to try and get that player that you think is the best player for the game week, and see, again, you don't want to keep breaking your team and taking -12s all the time, because that's not going to help either. But, like Son last week, with his game against Leicester, and now De Bruyne, and it's just, that's, Mark Southerns is always talking, he's talking about the fact that this season has been brutal in terms of swings. But yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's been so brutal, because there are these players in the league now who can get 3 or 4 goals in a game. You okay there, Shlee? You're struggling a bit.
Yeah, sorry. Hopefully it's muted on the recording, but yeah, you're probably getting the rough end of me coughing down the microphone. Sorry about that. If it is coming out on the recording.
No worries at all. As long as it's muted for others, and you're not actually going to keel over and die, then that's good.
I'm still not quite recovered, and yeah, I think my voice is a bit lower than normal, so apologies if that's sounding weird.
No worries. But I think just very quickly on this before we move on to yours, I have certainly made some mistakes in the last few weeks, and I think the Coutinho transfer was a bad one. I think getting Trent without even considering anybody else was a mistake as well. I knew Robertson was in for a rest. I could have done Robertson to Laporte, but again, I think you can't just keep making these massive hits. And again, the fact that the hits work out is fine. That's good, but it means that maybe my planning isn't good enough, that I'm having to actually take those kind of hits, because again, I could have a week where they don't pay off and suddenly I'm in real trouble. So learning for next season.
Lukaku's just scored 3-0. As long as it stays 0 to
yeah, exactly. And Maddison scored for Leicester 3-0.
Oof, okay. So you're going to get a few points off that. Schmeichel's going to get some, and then double Chelsea clean sheets coming in, hopefully. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? The -12 looks really good, but you had a poor week. It's just been a very high scoring week, isn't it? And we didn't go big on the one team that's going to get most of the points share, City, and maybe the writing was on the wall. Yeah, tricky.
But it's interesting though, isn't it? Because and it just shows how long these double game weeks are, and obviously this being a huge one. But with Arsenal and Spurs to play tomorrow, I mean, Son gets anything, and Nketiah as well. I mean, I've got 3 to come tomorrow, so I don't think I'm on for I could get anywhere near a green arrow just because of what De Bruyne and Laporte have done. But I could still be inside the top 2K with a chance of getting top 1K. So might not all hope might not be lost. Still got the free hit next week. So
yeah. Did Dewsbury Hall start tonight? You were probably worried every Leicester goal that goes in.
No, and that's the thing, you see, and that's why I benched him, because I don't think he was a mistake to get in, because he's been a good enabler and he's got me a few points, just a few 2s here and there. But again, he got whatever it was, or a 10 or 11, 12 point haul, but he's going to get maybe one of those a season, so I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, okay. we did say before we started this might be quite a long one, and yeah, it's looking like that. So for anyone listening, obviously we'll be as usual trying to do the timestamps the day after we upload. Well, we'll upload tonight and then try and do the timestamps tomorrow morning. But yeah, let's carry on. So I'm a point shy of you. I've actually updated, yeah, sorry, 49 minus 12 for you. So 48 minus 4 for me. I also bought an Nketiah and Son, 2 of the 4 players you did as well. I sold Havertz and Woods, and I mean, actually, I'm not even thinking about the. Oh, of course, Havertz didn't start, did he? I don't know if he's come on, but I got away with one there. I mean, that was my preferred move of the 4 options I put on the podcast last week. Havertz and Wood to Son and Nketiah. But then towards deadline, even though I'd narrowed in on that one, and I thought I want Son and I think I want Nketiah, but then I came up with another move, which was to keep Havertz, because I saw a lot of people saying, on paper this week, they've got Leeds, they've got Wolves, he's surely going to play one of those in prep for the final. Should I sell Coutinho instead? But I didn't have the money to do Nketiah in that move. I had only the money to get, a Gelhardt, so it was almost a toss-up between Coutinho and Nketiah or Havertz and Weghorst. And obviously Nketiah's swing has made that a very one-way outcome, which you definitely swung me on that, because I put it to another WhatsApp group and only a couple of people replied, but they both said that they would keep Havertz. So I have to thank you on that one, because I was pretty tempted. And I think the lesson learned there is maybe that if you do get one of those, it wasn't a last minute thing, it was about 24 hours to go, but it might be one of those over creative one that comes into your head, and there's so many combinations of what you could do that it's why is that only coming to you a day before, unless something massive has changed. Coutinho wasn't suddenly some news had broken about him, or Havertz equally.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because we do so much by way of kind of tinkering and looking at different combinations that there's always one where you kind of think, right, I'll go back to the drawing board and I'll start doing something a bit different, and then you're like, oh wow, that works. And then suddenly, because your brain is like, oh wow, I've just found another route, you almost get quite stuck on it, and it might involve a minus 12 or something. You're like, no, this is definitely gonna work. But yeah, I totally know what you're saying. And sometimes it's like when the deadline rolls around and you can then pick your team for the next week, and you put your captain on somebody, you should probably just leave it on that person that you first put it on, because that's who your gut says you should captain.
Yeah, bust team captains. Yeah, it's and last minute tinkering. It's dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not though having a great week. I mean, I thought it was one of those weeks where I didn't have any City apart from Cancelo, but those Nketiah points I thought would be quite big. Son finally get him in, I thought would be quite big, but actually in reality a lot of people own him. I'm praying that Chelsea keep this clean sheet, because that would massively help, but it was a 14k drop from 136ish to 150ish, so it's not going great. If I'd gone with any of the other captains I was thinking, I think we both said on the pod last week, it was between Salah, Son and Cancelo. You went vice Son, I went vice Cancelo, and they both outscored Salah. That's a bit painful, but I mean, I never considered De Bruyne. I just didn't have a good way of getting him in. Well, actually, no, that was one of the options, actually, wasn't it? I just thought, but that was a Weghorst down to Gelhardt. That was a complete box-in move. I just did not really consider that, given all the form of City and stuff, and the reaction to that Real tie. So it seems so obvious now.
Just to say, Shlee, very quickly, Reece James got taken off in the 77th minute, so his clean sheet's locked in.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And he's on maximum bonus at the moment as well, which is nice.
Oh, nice with his assist. Okay, cool. Good. So yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say on this one. I'm not sure if I've actually mentioned yet, but both on free hit this week. So a lot of the rest of this episode is going to be talking about free hit. So yeah, for anyone that's on it, hopefully this is going to be useful, because we're going through what I'm sure many people are doing, looking at lots of different sources of stats and stuff and info, and trying to balance the best way of putting everything together.
Just very quickly, Shlee, for those who aren't on free hit, what would you, if you weren't on free hit this week, would you just be looking at still bringing in Because it's very, very difficult because the teams that you would want for 37 don't have a good fixture in 38. So would you look at Palace because they've got United in 38, and United are just the ultimate beach team at the moment because they've been on the beach for 3 months. I think I probably would prioritize Palace players.
I think Zaha would be quite high up on my list. Yeah, I really like Zaha. He's pretty locked in my free hit.
I did see something really
Richarlison.
interesting though. In fact, it was Andy in our Slack channel was saying that Zaha's non-penalty XG over the last, like, I think it might have been the season, is horrendous. It's like
Is it?
he's got a non-penalty XG of something like 4 over the season.
Wow.
Like absolute terrible. He's scored something like 7 penalties this season. So
Has he? Wow,
it's really
7 pens. Amazing what Milivojevic does. I don't even know if he's still knocking around, but yeah, Zaha's certainly on a lot of the pens.
No, he's still there. They get so many penalties though, Palace. They always have. But I think Zaha does win quite a few of them, doesn't he? Because he's always throwing himself to the floor in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What would you be thinking with your team? I mean, and yeah, Richarlison I like as well.
I think I would bring in Zaha. Obviously, I've got Coutinho in there. I mean, Coutinho is such a blocker, but I don't know who I would actually bring Zaha in for. Maybe Saka, but I wouldn't really want to lose Saka.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of tinkering going on, but there's also talk of is it Mark Gay being injured for Palace?
Yeah.
And if he is, then
so who else is in the back line's injured? Is it the keeper? Because haven't you got Butland in your free hit team? Have you heard that,
I mean that's a bit of I don't think I will risk that, but if we hear that Guaita is definitely out, then I might do that just to save some cash. And I do like that Palace double. But
okay.
Yeah, you're right. If the keeper's out and they've lost Gay as well, then the chances are they're not going to keep. The chances are reduced that they're going to keep clean sheets, aren't they? So
yeah, I think it was James on Planet FPL. He was quite adamant that if Mark Gay was out, that is a Palace defence and goalkeeper no-go zone. I mean, they were kind of on the peripherals of my team anyway, but I don't think I'm going anyone apart from Zaha for Palace. It's funny actually you asking me what my non-free hit plans are. I mean, just looking at Saka, I'm not sure I could tell you who. They haven't got a double, have they? Who Saka's got this week? I've been so focused on the doubling teams and what I think are the good singlers, and I don't think that is Saka. So I actually couldn't tell you who they're playing this week.
Arsenal have got Newcastle away.
Okay, right.
On the Monday night.
Okay.
So yeah. I really want to check if Alonso got taken off for Chelsea. I guess we've only got a couple more minutes, but he's not actually anywhere on the
in the bonus.
website. So I'd have to look.
I know he survived until at least half time. It didn't get blimmin' hooked like last time. It was bizarre that chat, wasn't it? Fell out with Tuchel and then what did he come out and say?
Nice that Tuchel.
He had to explain it.
He had to explain. No, I think Tuchel came out, didn't he, and he said that they were arguing during the first half. Although again, people weren't really talking about that they didn't, because Tuchel can like really dig people out from the sidelines. He's got a bit of form for doing that, but apparently they didn't even really talk much at half time. So again, who's to know? But I mean, the fact that he started tonight is fantastic, because I just really thought he's going to be out of the team and then he'll be an issue for Gameweek 38. But yeah, the fact that he's played tonight and they look like they're going to keep the clean sheet, it means he should play 38 as well. So thank goodness for that.
Agreed. Okay, so top 10k, look at points on the left of the table and their EOs. Yes, Cancelo 88, Laporte 36. So yeah, I think City would have been over 100 total. So maybe that lack of clean sheet is good for us with just Cancelo. So De Bruyne
is not on that list on the left again.
So he's not 35% owned or more. So that's even more crazy differential, isn't it? And then that bottom right table, top 4 captains, 84% Salah, and everyone else is a differential. De Bruyne's, Cancelo, Son, and they're all outscoring him.
That is strange. Oh yeah, I mean he's only 11% owned. So even that is mad that even captaining at 8% captaincy, he's still not in that. He's still not 30% owned.
Yeah. So that's just going to be a massive swing for his owners. Fair play to them.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I thought was in the top right image was just the bench boost. That's actually sort of broken the graphics here, where you can't actually see the percentage because it's gone behind the legend there. But I think that's 90+% of people have now pulled the bench boost, and it was massively deployed this week. Not that many free hitters, actually, only 6% playing second free hit, and about 40% have got those left to play. And I guess that is where we are this week with those other 40%. Any more team info going on?
I'm just looking at I'm looking to see if Alonso and James actually help me out. And I also got, I'm on for a Schmeichel clean sheet as well, but Mount ended up on 13 points. And so he was one of my transfers out. Oof. So I need Son to do something and see what De Bruyne's.
Oh, did he assist 2 then, Mount? Scored 1 and assisted 2?
Yeah, I think he must have done.
Right. Oof, okay.
And De Bruyne was only 27% owned, but he got 25 points, so pretty brutal. But yeah, I'm at like 3K,
right?
Which is a big slip from 1151 to be at 3K. So I need Arsenal and Spurs players tomorrow to work wonders.
Yeah, we need like a 3 or Son hat trick and Ketia hat trick. Just that, please.
Yeah, that would do it. But yeah, there's the chips now. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because we've seen a lot of people have, you see it on FPL Twitter that a lot of people have had amazing weeks with chips. But for the season where we had 2 free hits and everyone was kind of wild carding 26 or triple captaining, I don't know. They just don't seem to have. Maybe it's because most of my chips haven't really worked out, but you spend all this time planning around the chips, and actually your bigger game weeks are those individual, those single game weeks where everything's normal, not many people playing chips, and you just happen to be on the good players. So I'm really looking forward to next season and hoping that it is a more normal season and there are just a lot more single game weeks. But maybe that's just me being a dullard.
But are you referring to this week as a normalish week where some people have done really well? Because
yeah, I guess so. I mean, do you wish now that you'd free hit it in 36 rather than saving it?
I didn't give it any thought as to what I would do, so I don't think I can be. But maybe that's a really unhealthy thing to say.
But you probably would have had De Bruyne and you probably would have had Laporte, right? So
I guess so. I was really worried about those 120 minutes, though. I know they haven't got any of the defenders, but I don't know if I would have gone Laporte. And I don't know if I would have. Yeah. I think I probably would have tried to have been too clever, and which would have meant Mahrez and Jesus or something. And look how that's gone. Maybe Foden, but I know he's only got a goal in the first game. But I don't know. I think with my this is going to be my worst OR ever. Probably I'm going to have. So I'm not sure me explaining my thinking process is going to be too helpful really to you, any listeners or me. So I think we'll just not think about it. I mean, I know for sure that I didn't play my wild card at a good time at all, and that didn't work out in a very short term by a few points yet. But that was a bad move. I'm not sure I'm going to lose too much sleep over not free hitting this week.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we're already, I guess it's because we're getting close to the end of the season and our ranks are kind of coming into sharper focus, but it's almost turning into kind of a review pod anyway. I think it'll be really interesting. We should talk about ways to do it, but it'd be really interesting to see, the what we thought were the key kind of turning points in our seasons. But yeah, it's a shame because it feels to me like the season's ending in a bit of a damp squib, and hopefully that I can turn that around with the free hit. But
yeah,
it's been pretty brutal the last couple of weeks.
And you saying that you hope it's a bit more normal, I don't know. I thought I would thrive on this season being abnormal and lots of big swings because for the both of us actually as well, we're both big planners. You're very much tinkering on live FPL all the time. You'd think we'd have that edge. So it is a bit strange that we've done quite polar. I definitely think this is one where, but for me, that a bad decision breeds another bad decision, and I just kind of got into this spiral of not really ever catching up with what I should do, and then you doubt yourself, etc. And maybe the opposite's happened to you. you've been just about the same with planning, and this podcast has helped, but good decisions have bred more, and you sort of got your niche into lots of hits sometimes, and that really paying off. And okay, you're in a bit of a slump the last couple of weeks, but I don't quite know why I've struggled so much with the volatility of the fixtures and stuff. You look at someone like Zoff,
well, again, we could probably do this on a kind of end of season pod, but do you feel like with the doubles and because I don't ever feel like you've gone into a week and thought, oh, I hadn't planned properly for this. It's almost like you've just missed hauls, like having Kane instead of Son, and different things like captaining Salah in the weeks where he hasn't done so well and things like that. As in, it doesn't feel to me like you've never been up on what's happening and you failed to plan properly. It's just more, you've had bad luck in a lot of different ways. So
yeah, some of it's bad luck, but the fact that we know someone quite well who's Captain De Bruyne in Chris, and people have done free hit this week and it's kind of worked out. I can't ignore the fact that maybe I have missed something, but I didn't massively.
This would have been a good week to get Chris on. We should have got him on to talk to him about his De Bruyne captaincy, and I could finally put a face to a name. But well done, Chris, on your excellent captain choice. And now I'm sweating about somebody I've never met beating me in a mini league with nothing riding on it. So
put a name to a really, really smiley face all the way through the podcast.
But Chris, we'll get you on. We'll get you on. Maybe we should get you on next week, and you can. Hopefully, my free hit will be mine and Shlee's free hit will be absolutely flying at that point. I don't know whether Chris has he still got a free hit to play. Is he free hitting next week?
I'm not sure, but he's just got a fourth De Bruyne goal.
What? No.
By the looks of it.
That is horrendous. That is horrendous. He may well catch me. He should jump into that. How come he's not in our mini league? He'd be winning a curly whirl.
Well, I was going to say, if we might invite him on, but he's like, no, thanks, guys. I've listened. I'm not interested.
Not interested in a curly whirly.
Okay, so let's move on. Tickers. So I've updated all of the numbers here and the colours because it's such a big week that I needed some up-to-date info on this. So defence is obviously a reflection of goalkeeper and defenders. The big one for me is that Villa and Everton are hard to separate here. Villa has got two bluey whitey fixtures, whereas Everton has got a really blue in Palace, but then a bit of a red in Brentford. But I think on average they're about the same. Liverpool have got a very strong single week. And then Spurs, Wolves. There's quite a few options, but I think my main focus has been certainly when I was putting together just the final sort of conclusion at the moment of my free hit team. What is the split between Villa and Everton? I think that's really tricky. You've got so many options in there with Pickford and Martinez, Cash and Dean, and then Everton have got some real cheapies that are good, Mikalenko and Holgate and so on. What are your quick thoughts on the double defences this week?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they've got two home fixtures, Villa and Everton, I think makes them very attractive. But I mean, Brentford have been good recently, haven't they? And they seem to be pretty relaxed. And now that they're safe or relatively safe, and so I feel like they could score against Everton. But Pickford's just come into form at the right time, hasn't he, for these games as well? And he only seems to ever have like 3 or 4 games in form before spending the rest of the season being terrible. But and there's not even an international tournament this summer either, so it's a bit of a waste. But yeah, I like Villa and Everton's fixtures. Obviously, the home. I think the one thing I'm going to try not to do is I need to be careful not to take out too many single game weekends that have got good single fixtures. I mean, even the fact that Reece James has got a return and a clean sheet tonight, it does make me worry about that Leicester at home game a bit.
We'll come on to Reece James a bit later. Yeah, that's interesting, that one.
And then the same with Liverpool. I mean, that Southampton away fixture looks really nice. But again, both Chelsea and Liverpool have got the FA Cup before those games. So that's pretty concerning in terms of it'll be difficult to pick the players that will start. I mean, I don't think any of us expected Salah to be benched again this week. So I've got Salah in my in my draft now, but I do wonder whether it's worth looking at a Jota or someone like that. Maybe in addition to, maybe instead of. I guess it would be in keeping with the luck over the last few weeks to have had Salah for Newcastle and then for this double, and then for him to just absolutely smash Southampton, and I've taken him out my free hit. So yeah, it's very difficult. I feel like it could go disastrously wrong, this free hit. But we've made our bed now, Mr. Shlee, and we need to lie in it like Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah, I know what you mean with that risk. I mean, I'd really like. I mean, Diaz's form is just ridiculous, but I think he is possibly in Klopp's head like first or second choice in that front four. Him and Mane are absolutely on fire, and Jota and Salah and all the others are then a bit more peripheral, Firmino and so on. So I'm not convinced by Salah. He's in my team at the moment, but that's kind of because of this Watkins injury. If Watkins is fit, I might go without Salah. But then the problem is, if Diaz is first choice, is he going to play that Southampton game? Mane's too expensive for that, and he leaves Jota, and he is so frustrating. I don't know if that massively inspires me.
Yeah, and this is I feel like there is a lot of luck involved with this free hit, in that you could pick two of Jota, Diaz, Salah, and you get the wrong one, the wrong ones, and the one that you don't have goes absolutely mad. Like, Jota could get 2 or 3 goals against Southampton, and it could be a good differential, but it's just that fear of not having Salah, isn't it? And how high owned he will be, highly owned.
Yeah, and I think he's the favourite on the captaincy on Scout, so his EO will be really high. So yeah, it will be very risky going without him. The other bummer with this week is that the Spurs game is the first kick-off, which I know shouldn't be a reason not to do it, but if you were going to captain Son, it's more risky because it's the first game.
I know. I really like that Spurs fixture though, and I definitely want to have Son and Kane for that fixture because, yeah, I just think. I mean, Burnley obviously did they lose recently? Was it Villa that beat them pretty comfortably? Somebody beat them pretty comfortably this week, didn't they? And I just feel like they're still in a bit of trouble, Burnley, and they can't shore up the defense. So
yeah, it was Villa.
Villa beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
So, and that was at Burnley, whereas this is at Spurs. I think.
And they got no centre backs, have they? Burnley, yeah, they're all injured.
Exactly, like Tarkowski's out now, so I just really want Son and Kane for that game, and I could even be tempted, depending on what happens in the cup final or whatever else. I could even be tempted by trying to fit Kulusevski in there as well, if I don't want to go for a risky Liverpool midfielder. But it's so difficult this week. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, yeah, so we moved on to the attack ticker because even though we had the defence ticker up, apart from Villa and Everton, we just moved on to it's fine. I think there's too much on the defence to really discuss. Apart from that, Chelsea have maybe put a bit of a spanner in the works with a clean sheet tonight. That has maybe swung me a bit, and it just shows what James can do. You're right.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because before tonight, this is why people always say you've got to wait to get more information. But before tonight, I wasn't even thinking about keeping a Chelsea defender on this free hit. But now I might.
Yeah, but then if they got Vardy back, loves a big game. He has got a week rest now. Okay, it was only Norwich, but that sounded quite one-sided 3-0. So maybe that won't be easy for Chelsea. And
no,
like you say,
and
they've
that's
got the final.
Chelsea will have. You would think that the team that plays the cup final, I mean, they could go to extra time in that, and
yeah. Although the good thing is we'll know, won't we? Yeah, we'll know. Saturday night, isn't it, the cup final, and Sunday morning is the deadline, so it works out quite nicely.
Yeah, I feel like I still might. I think I still will go against Chelsea defence, just because you're right. I think Leicester will score in that game.
Yeah, just looking at the stats on the right there, XG conceded, there's a 6.5 there in green. It's quite high for Chelsea. Goals conceded at home. Their away is very good, 3.3. It's really low. Having said that, Leicester's XG 4 away from home 3.3 is very low. So that says that Leicester aren't going to try and score much, and Chelsea would let them in if there was anything to let in.
Yep, there you go. Some stats for you. Leicester aren't going to try and score, and Chelsea would let them if they did.
Yeah, that's how football works.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
It's interesting that the a lot of the blue fixtures are with the premium teams with a single, isn't it? So we've discussed Spurs, and it's a bold fixture. It's interesting that the Southampton fixture isn't bold, so that is suggesting that Southampton at home have not conceded a lot of double-digit FPL points returns, whereas they do that when they're away.
Yeah.
So that again sways me slightly off a Liverpool player captain and maybe Salah. Are we really going to spend 13 million on someone we're not going to captain for a free hit? But I suppose that's maybe Kane is equally true on that. We're both thinking.
And you're not thinking about captaining a doubler.
Not at the moment. I mean,
look at Brentford. Look at Brentford and Palace away. For Everton, they are at home, but they're both bold. So you wouldn't think about Richarlison against those guys.
I have been wrestling with this, and I think on balance, no, not at the moment. I think it's quite hard to pick one, and I think every one of them is fraught with a bit of danger. Like Richarlison could just totally lose his head, or they could really try and keep it quite tight. That might not be a good return. And Villa, I mean, if Watkins has got a knock, is Coutinho going to play? Is Buendia going to play? I think unless you go maybe defence with those, and Gordon maybe for Everton, but I don't think you're going to captain a 4.6 mil midfielder. I think it's really hard to find a sort of talisman there. I think those games might be quite a goal fest, but I'm not sure you could say, apart from Richarlison, okay, he's on pens as well, but I don't know, it just seems a bit too risky to go captain. I think if I was going to go with either fixture, it would be Richarlison. I think actually I'm in vice captain at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, because with Villa, you're right, the whole Coutinho Buendia thing is a bit of an issue, because I think I've got Buendia in one of my drafts, just because again I thought I've got 6.1, who's 6.1, and Buendia had just obviously got a couple of returns, but then he was benched, wasn't he, for Liverpool, and Coutinho came straight back in. So I think that's too risky, too fraught with risk. I think Richarlison, again, given that he is on penalties, I mean, strange to have a forward who's actually a forward in the game, but I think it's just that thing. Like De Bruyne tonight, he's got 4 goals worth 20 points on their own. For a striker, they're obviously only worth 16, but it's just sometimes a striker gets a hat trick, he's only got 12 points and goals for that. It just does make a big difference, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, don't usually captain a striker if I can help it.
No, I still think I'm going to lean towards Son against Burnley, just because his form is just absolutely off the charts. And then, probably have Richarlison vice, I think.
The only other interesting one is Ings, especially if Watkins out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ings is a good option if Watkins is in, and if Watkins is in, I'm probably going to have a front three of Kane, Richarlison. Oh no, that doesn't work. I don't think up to this point I thought about Kane, but I think Watkins and Ings is viable.
Yeah, interesting, because Ings also, when he was at Southampton, he always used to finish the season strongly as well. So if he wasn't injured, so yeah, I quite like that. I haven't really given too much thought to Ings, but is he pretty nailed for minutes now? Then has he played like the last 2 or 3?
Not sure. Yeah, he's played the last 2 or 3. Not sure why he came in.
I mean, he's 50, 73, 90. I mean, I guess he's playing his way back in. But again, it wouldn't be that surprising obviously, if Watkins is injured, it's a different thing, because it's an easier decision for Gerrard. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop out again, especially because Buendia and Coutinho are now kind of back in the side. So I don't know.
Yeah, tricky.
And again, to captain it, if you were going to captain Ings, that's a massive differential call, isn't it?
Yeah, but I can't see him going bananas. But I think Son is safer, isn't it? It's the early kickoff. You're not going to have any blimmin' bad luck with the second game because there isn't one.
No.
So yeah, I'm not too
Bad
hot
luck
on
with the
there.
second game because there isn't one. I mean, isn't that the ultimate bad luck with the second game, Shlee, that there isn't one at all?
What about Wolves? They got Norwich. Thought about any Wolves players?
No, haven't even thought about them. I
No.
heard they had that Norwich fixture. Who would you pick?
I'm not sure I can pronounce him. Is it Trincao or maybe his first name Chiquino or something? He's been banging in a few recently. Well, he's got a couple of assists, I think, in the last game. But I thought that was just one punty. I did have a 3-5-2 at one point where the fifth midfielder I could punt on, sort of anyone and have a bit of fun. That was the only time I was tempted because the fixture's lush.
You're very welcome to have that kind of fun on your own, Shlee, because I'm not going anywhere near Wolves players.
Okay. The other thing quickly here I want to highlight on this Lego Mane ticker was the rest for the 1, 2, 3. I've only got little tiny stars next to them, but the rest for the 5 sort of doubling teams that we're kind of looking towards: Leicester, Everton, Villa, Palace and Burnley is all yellowy and green. So I don't think we should be worried about rotation for any of those, which is good.
Yeah.
Whereas Liverpool, obviously, oh no, sorry, that's outdated a bit. That's if they've only got the single. So yeah, I don't think that's an issue. So, and then I've just got a slide on each position, and I thought we'd just go through quickly and look at a few bits before then concluding with what we think after we've done captains as well.
Yeah.
So the fixtures are on the right for the corresponding slide that we're on. So for goalkeepers, we've got the defensive chart on the right. Rate My Team has got Martinez the highest, followed very closely by Pickford, and then other doubling Schmeichel, Pope, and Guaita. Interestingly, XG prevented, this is over the last 4, according to Scout, Martinez is massively high, which is strange because everyone's talking about Pickford and these amazing reaction saves he's been making, but he's only at plus 0.3. So that suggests he's been conceding about the same. So when I first saw this, I was really convinced by Martinez. He is quite a lot more expensive, but
yeah,
I have now gone back to Pickford. But I think Martinez is an interesting one. He's got the FPL pedigree. He was brilliant last season.
Also, I mean, just the way that goalkeepers are priced in the way that they score points in FPL means that XG prevented is great. But actually, if they're making a load of saves, yes, it's good. But if there was one that they couldn't save because if it means the other team are creating a lot of chances or having a lot of shots, and that's why people always used to like Pope, because those shots were always from distance because they were so well marshaled defensively. But yeah, you want that kind of nice balance, don't you? You want them to pick up a few save points, but ultimately to be fairly safe for the clean sheet. But I don't know. It does worry me that if the defenses are giving up that many chances and they're getting that many save points, that they might get a few save points, but lose the clean sheet, which is the main thing. So
are you very much? Are you between a keeper, or are you pretty like 80% set on a keeper?
No, I'm not really. And actually, I could have any one of kind of Martinez, Pickford, Schmeichel, or the Palace keeper, whoever that's going to be. I think unless we hear about Guaita, then I don't think I'll go there. But I hadn't really considered Martinez, and not because I didn't like him or I didn't like his fixtures, but actually because of his price. But I might have to look back at it again because I think he, with those 2 home fixtures, and you could viably have the Villa treble up in defense. Although I think I would probably, if I had Martinez in goal, I'd probably just go Martinez, cash, and then a forward probably. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think cash is way ahead of Digne? Can move on to defenders.
Again, maybe it's just that recency bias of the
okay. Gameweek 29,
the massive score.
28, whatever it was.
Digne just hasn't had a great season at all, has he? No. He's been in and out of the side. He's been injured, but he does always have. He's got a wonderful left foot. He's always got the ability to get an assist. But I don't know. I just think for me, Cash just seems a steadier player and yet still very attacking. And I think I'd rather, if I had to pick one. So if I was going to go Martinez in goal, then I think I probably would just go Cash. But you could quite. I've got, I think both of my drafts I think have Digne in both of them, I think.
Okay. The middle table might give us a few clues on. Well, yeah, it highlights that quite nicely. So this is sorted by expected goal involvement. This is last four. Cancelo's top. Likes of Alonso, Trent are up there. Reece James. I think I removed a few players that were just completely not applicable, like Watford defenders or something. But Digne just about makes it onto the bottom. So I can't remember where Cash was in relation, but yeah, 0.62. He's got a decent output. I think I'm probably going to get both, and then not have to decide. And yeah, Digne is risky with his injury.
I think that's the same thing. I mean, it's like when we were umming and ahhing over Havertz and Mount, and we went for both, and it worked out brilliantly, didn't it? So,
although I'm just thinking, if Digne is injury prone, 3 games in a week, is he really going to play? And is Young going to come in for one of those? Is that just a bit? We didn't really think about this with Coutinho coming in when we got him, but
no,
this is non-stop, twice a week fixtures at the moment. But I think they both played 90 minutes, so maybe somehow Digne miraculously come back to fitness.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at his. He got an assist, didn't he, against Burnley?
Mm-hmm.
But let's just see. He's played 90 the last 3 games, so
right, he's just come straight back in. Okay, all right, maybe that's maybe I'm worried about nothing. If you had to go with an Everton defender, who would you go for?
So I have looked at Everton's defenders, and I think, again, probably because he just got a return recently, but I think Holgate, and I think Lampard came out and said how important Holgate is to the team. So I think that just makes you feel better about starts. He's obviously not amazingly attacking, even though he got a return recently. But I just think, given his price, I think as an enabler, I think he's quite a good option. I think, is Mykolenko 5.9?
4.9, something like that. Yeah.
Sorry, 4.9. Yeah.
So he's been quite attacking as well, but it's 4.2 is a crazy price, isn't it, for Holgate?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the other thing we've got to be careful of, right? Is that you look at somebody like Mykolenko. I mean, I know he's only played kind of 10 games for them or something, but 1 goal, 1 assist, I guess, in 10 games for a defender for a relegation threatened side. It's not horrendous, but it's very easy to miss these returns, isn't it? I think when they're getting so few of them. So you've just got to be looking at the clean sheet, and Holgate is going to get those clean sheets if Mykolenko gets them. So although it was a very nice goal that Mykolenko scored, wasn't it? Did you see that?
I don't think I saw that game.
Yeah,
highlight to that one.
Volley, left-footed volley on the.
Okay, I think their XGI though was down at about 0.3, the Everton defenders, so it is half what we're talking about with Digne. So in terms of attack and output, I mean, I think everyone knows, Digne's free kicks and corners are pretty good. So you are paying that extra, but attack and returns are more likely.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's why I probably will double up on the Villa defenders and go for, say, because that's the thing, Pickford in goal for Everton. You're getting somebody who's nailed. He could get save points, and he's even pretty good on penalties, isn't he, Pickford? So you never know.
Although it would be Tony, but then it would be Zaha he'd be up against, which is obviously not a nice matchup if we're going for him. But yeah, Zaha's not great with pens.
I hope Tony misses one, because I'm probably going to have Zaha. So
yeah,
Tony never misses though, does he?
Exactly. Right, so midfielders. Coutinho comes out top for Rate My Team, which is interesting. I just don't see how that is anymore with his rotation risk. Then Zaha, Gordon's interesting. I mean, it's just so cheap, but the stats say, and the central stats there. So that is XA and XG non-penalty. It's then confusingly the table sorted by XGI, including penalties. So it's maybe not the greatest sorted table, but the fact he's in that table, he's in the top 10 midfielders over the last 4, is impressive.
But Rate My Team always loves the doubler, doesn't it? Because it never kind of predicts, because it's kind of looking at the actual statistics of it, but it never predicts somebody's going to get 25 points in a game week. And so I just love somebody having 2 fixtures, because their floor is just so much higher, isn't it? So
well, you say that though, and I didn't mention this on the defender one. It's a good job you've raised it. So Son there is 5th in this midfielder table, and Salah is 7th. But if you look at the defender table, the highest single game weeker is James in what, maybe 9th, 10th. So it massively favours the double defenders, but it does seem to concede that a single game week midfielder might be a good plan.
Interesting.
Which I think sounds right.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to know. And again, it makes sense because the way FPL points are awarded, but the defender just has so much better chance of getting a clean sheet if he's got two bites of the cherry, doesn't it? So
City have just scored a 5th. I don't know yet. Oh, Sterling. I was going to say we should just cross our fingers. And obviously, it could be Cancelo, but probably a De Bruyne assist. Yeah, 5-1. Jesus. Oh dear.
Yeah, that is just devastating, isn't it? I think imagine all those people who finally gave up on Sterling and.
Oh yeah, true. He's had a good week. Yeah, I'm just still more thinking about City. I mean, that's 10-1 on aggregate they've got in their double.
It's a Cancelo assist, so he's now on 3 bonus points.
Cancelo is? No, he's not.
Cancelo assist, and he's apparently on 3 bonus, even though De Bruyne has got 4 goals.
What? No, he can't. That can't be right.
That's apparently true. It can't be true though, can it? Because De Bruyne is on.
He must be on 60 bonus or something from 1 assist.
I think somebody must be yanking my chain in that chat.
Oh, is this on? All right, is your source your WhatsApp group? Oh, right.
Yeah, the assist for Cancelo hasn't come in yet, actually.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let's not get our hopes up.
De Bruyne has got a yellow card, so Chris will be gutted about that.
So
this game, it will brutalize you.
So the doublers in that middle table, the only ones that are on there is Cornet, Gordon, Zaha. So I think at the moment I've only got Zaha as a doubling midfielder, which I think again maybe reflects this, that you've got to be careful not ignoring, like you said, the good singlers there. I mean, have you thought tonight with De Bruyne's antics that he should come in for what looks a tricky West Ham fixture, but I think historically they do okay at the at West Ham. I think 1-1 was the most recent game.
I haven't, because again, this is the thing on a free hit, isn't it? That you just discount teams because you're like, oh well, it's West Ham, and yet actually West Ham, their defense hasn't been great recently because I think they've got a load of injuries, and I don't think I've seen lots of news about people coming back for them, but yeah, I haven't really considered De Bruyne on it, but I probably should now. Although again, it's so rare that a player, and it shouldn't work like this. You know, it's like you flip a coin, it lands on heads. There's still just a 50-50 chance it's going to land on heads or tails next time. Like the previous roll doesn't make any difference. But it's just so rare that a player like De Bruyne gets 4 goals in one game and then goes on to do really well in the next game. That is really rare for some reason. I don't know why that is. But yeah, it's strange. You don't see people getting kind of back-to-back hat tricks in consecutive games. I don't know whether there's a human nature element to that, but
yeah, but hat tricks is very extreme, isn't it? I'd say look at Son recently. He has been doing double digits game after game.
Yeah, but it is rare though, isn't it? The reason why with Son it feels amazing is because it is an incredibly rare thing for somebody to be doing.
Yeah, it is. But it's obviously, it's not similar to a coin in that, there's form in there, there's confidence in there. De Bruyne is going to be absolutely loving it. And if they've wrapped up the title by game week 38, it might be too late to do Salah to De Bruyne because De Bruyne might get rested. I mean, I don't know what rested for, but they don't need to play the strongest team there if they've wrapped it up. So it might be the last chance to get De Bruyne.
No, I know, but I'm just looking at. I mean, again, some stats just don't seem to. They don't actually seem to. They almost don't make sense because they're so ridiculously out there. But I'm just looking at De Bruyne's returns this season, and he's in game week 7 and 8. He got a goal in both games, and in game week 31, 32, he got a goal in each game. But other than that,
he hasn't had back-to-back.
He hasn't scored in consecutive games this season. So he has twice.
Okay.
And again, maybe that's a ridiculously out there stat, but that's the kind of thing we were talking about the algorithms earlier. That's the kind of thing that once you can pour all the data from the last like 5, 6, 7, 8 years into algorithms, and you can kind of they can slice and dice the data all they want. You know, like the way that Luke Disable predicts the City team is he might think back and say, well, after a Champions League quarterfinal last year, they rotated these players, or he switched from a back four to a back five, or whatever, you know, whatever he's looking at to make those future predictions, because he's now got enough time with Pep as the City manager and with this kind of squad of players. But yeah, I mean, they'll be able to look at that and say, well, De Bruyne has never got a return where he's got 2 goals in a game before. He's never got a return in the next game. They'll look at stuff like that. And again, the fact that is model doesn't mean that he can't do it. He might go on to get another 2 or 3 goals against West Ham, but the chances of it happening, when people say you're chasing points, and I think that is because it's very rare for players to get a haul straight after they've already had one.
Yeah, fair. And often the fixture is not as good, and you can point to some weakness. Well, it was kind of obvious because De Bruyne does this against I don't know, a Wolves defence with a low block or something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have a rule, but I do have a thing of you've got to be very careful ignoring a player who's just got 20 plus points in a week. And cash, something like that is a bit different. That's a double game week. No one's barely even heard of him this season of getting attacking returns. He gets 29 in a game week or something. That's an extreme variance. But De Bruyne is world class, and he's capable. If he goes and gets a brace against West Ham, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that because they're out of all other competitions now, you'd expect him to play every minute of every game until the title's wrapped up, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would only be able to do it by removing Kane, but I think actually De Bruyne is cheaper than Kane, so it might actually fit a bit easier. And go, say Salah, Son, De Bruyne.
Yeah, I just think because it's an away game, that I can really see that those kind of choices this week, they are really difficult. But I can see Kane getting a hat trick against Burnley and De Bruyne blanking.
Yeah,
and those are the kind of calls. They're very difficult to make, but you are going to have to make those decisions. Maybe the thing is Salah. Maybe it's if you take Salah out, you have De Bruyne, and it gives you the cash to do something else. And maybe you cover that by having, Jota and Diaz, or and that's the way that you make that work. But that could be interesting, couldn't it? And because the other difficult thing on these free hits is to be differential, and maybe to have Kane, De Bruyne, Diaz, and Jota is quite an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
I mean, even just talking about it now, actually, it makes me want to jump onto live FPL and plan it out.
Okay, finally, attackers. So rate my team likes Watkins the most, closely followed by Richarlison, and then Ings and Vardy as a kind of pair, and then beyond that Kane, and then some of course Mateta. So interesting that Kane's quite high, but he's obviously very expensive. He's only just on the bottom of that chart in the middle. I mean, you say that you can see Kane getting a hat trick, 1.1 XG non-penalty over the last 4. I mean, he's probably going to get a penalty surely soon. So many people, as I said last week, feel sorry for Kane owners. They've had him partly for penalties, and I don't think Spurs have had one. I can't remember in the last 6 game weeks, or probably longer. But highest on there, Jesus, Weghorst. I don't think either of those are options. It's a shame that someone like Brighton haven't got a double, because they're an absolutely brilliant form, and that Leeds fixture could be quite a goal fest, but I just don't think you can go there. Richarlison 2.28. I mean, that's non-penalty as well, so he's definitely coming in.
I think for me it's Richarlison, Kane, and whether it's Watkins or Ings, I think is probably sensible.
I think you're right. Probably going one or the other. Watkins or Ings.
Yeah, the forwards have not been great this season, and I just think a single game week forward doesn't interest me at all this week. I guess Kane being the exception, but that's Burnley, and he's the most expensive forward in the game. So
I am leaning through this of not getting Kane.
Really?
If I captained Son but didn't have Kane, I'd feel a lot better about captaining Son. I don't know, it sounds ridiculous, but that is so many eggs in the one basket in the early game. Son captain and Kane, if it goes wrong, whereas if you don't, if it's 5-0, if you've got Son captain, hopefully you're going to be up on that, even if you don't have Kane. Obviously if you have both, fair play to you, you get a brace and a hat trick or something. But at least you've got De Bruyne as a bit of an insurance policy.
I find it so funny that you are this dichotomy of somebody who's so into the stats of it, and yet you're also so at the whim of the emotions of it as well. Because like the flip of the coin, I don't think about the early game at all. I know that if it doesn't go well in the first game, it's not very fun. But it's Burnley at home, so
I think I'm quite a risk-averse manager anyway, but I think also when things are not going well, you double doubt every thought, and lots of things come into your head thinking, "Oh, have I missed something here?" And yeah, I think that's probably coming out there with my thought process.
I know, and and there's a reason why people feel like that, because they feel like it's cursed, because when it goes badly, it's painful for the rest of the game week. But it's just as annoying for me when you've got Cristiano Ronaldo in a Monday night fixture and you're waiting all weekend for it, and then he blanks, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I was waiting for that the whole weekend.
Not that that's happened recently with year 7 and year 7. To hear Ronaldo, vividly remember that. That was a very nice return.
No, that was good. But I remember, I don't know why I remember these things, but I remember getting a train home after football on a Monday night, and it was a couple of seasons ago, and I had Mings, and for some reason I played him, and he scored against Man United, and I remember just being on the train home and being like, "How has Mings scored a goal? It's amazing."
It's a surreal Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay,
Funny.
we're nearly there. You getting a bit bored, Nick?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to tinkering my free hit 37 team. This is good.
Okay, nice. So this then wraps everything up into one slide, in that obviously we've had rate my team points for every position, but in a one and now, according to rate my team, Martinez is the highest, followed by Coutinho and Watkins. So they're really big on Villa, and then Pickford and Richarlison. So I mean, that suggests if you're going to go triple Villa, you go with probably the top two players I'm not considering there, Martinez and Coutinho, but Watkins, yeah, is a good bet. And then the defenders are not too far behind.
I mean, Coutinho, we know he's a brilliant player. He can do it in any game, but he's the opposite of Son at the moment, isn't he? He's had no form, either from a pure footballing perspective or from an FPL perspective. He hasn't done anything for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, let's have a look at this.
Yeah, I was also going to say the opposite in terms of, I just want to see if his XA and XG were available. I get the feeling he's still very creative, but he's not really, apart from long shots, taking many shots. Whereas Son, his creativity is not poor, but he's just a pure finisher now, isn't he? His XG is going to be humongous compared to his XA.
Yeah, I mean, so I had to find Coutinho by remembering that he's actually in my team, rather than going back and trying to find him in a fixture, because since in double game week 28, again, which is very much in people's thoughts because it was massive for him, but he got 13 and a 10 in that double game week. Since then, he hasn't had a single attacking return. So he's had 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah, just weirdly comes out high on this model, isn't it?
The only reason why I brought him in is because of Norwich and then the double. But in those weeks, he's got 3, 1, 2. Whereas Mount, who I just took out this week, even though he wasn't doing much, he's got a really decent score now. This game week. What's he got? He got 11 in one game. So that I'm sure he'll get bonus for that as well. So yeah, it's just I'm not going to have Coutinho. I think he's in such terrible form, and he could really hurt me if he goes off in the first game. But he's having a shocker.
There is that rotation risk as well, isn't there? With Buendia.
Yeah, I mean, I much prefer Buendia. Like I have him in one of my drafts because I just thought after he got the returns in the first game, I didn't think Coutinho was going to come straight back in. I think Gerrard was like, well, it's Liverpool and he's kind of got to play him. But actually wouldn't surprise me if they go back to the team that beat Burnley.
Yeah.
So I could. Buendia is quite a nice differential. It just is the rotation risk, isn't it? But
yes, he's just at the bottom of this table, so yeah, could work out. Interestingly,
yeah,
the highest singler, I think,
I like
is
him as a differential, and he's only 6.1. So
yeah, he's cheap. Highest singular in this table is Son.
yeah,
6.9, and then
I'm definitely having Son.
yeah,
I think
just about the bottom.
It'd be interesting. We on one of our summer pods, we should talk about what we think people's prices are going to be. But yeah, I reckon Son's going to be about 11.5, 12 next season.
Yeah. And then this was quite early on in the poll, but Richarlison was top actually at that point, but it's very split. I mean, there's 5 players here over 10%. Richarlison highest, and then Son closely followed by Watkins. So Son wouldn't be a massive differential.
No, but then he is a massive risk if you don't have him, isn't he? I mean, I guess when it's split like this, it's not a massive risk if you don't captain, but I think sometimes that's the thing. I'm annoyed with myself this week in picking Salah as captain because I really wanted to captain Son. Now I know he's only got 7 points so far, but he's still got the game against Arsenal. But my gut was telling me to go for Son, and again, probably because a bit like with Coutinho, Salah hasn't been in great form, and I think Salah's exhausted. I think that's why they rested him again against Villa. I actually think, despite the fact that he had a rest, I think he's just played so much football this season. They've played every game in every tournament. He obviously went to the African Cup of Nations. I think he's just exhausted. But yeah, I was annoyed. The reason why I captained Salah is because I'm still quite highly ranked, and I knew his EO was going to be absolutely massive. So if he went mad, he was going to destroy me. But I think we need to just start looking at this list of players, and rather than thinking, right, who's the most captains, just think who do we think is going to get the most points?
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah, that image on the right, I don't want to take too much stock in. I just thought it was I guess it's just a good sanity check, isn't it? If the player you think is going to be highest is a really low percentage, you think, why is that?
True. There is that, and it may make you think, there might be something else out there. But the idea of thinking, right, well, Son is, if I don't captain him, he's only kind of 18% owned, so he's not going to hurt me. But it's like, if you think Son's going to get the most points because he's got Burnley at home, he's in ridiculous form, then you should captain him. So
sure, no, sure. Although, but you just said it sounded like you did a bit of a defense move last week by going Salah, partly because you wanted to protect rank, but now you're saying that I mean, easy in hindsight, but you massively regret that for that reason.
No, I know, and it is easy in hindsight because Salah could have done it, and that I had this kind of messaging. I was messaging with Andy about this, and he said, he was like, was it defensive or was it just you were picking a player who's a fantastic player who's been like one of the best in FPL? You're still, it's not like Salah's a bad player and you're just picking him because he's got 180% EO. You're picking him because he's Salah and he can still do it in any game. But my gut was telling me Son, but my gut could have been really wrong and Salah could have absolutely destroyed me. That's the flip side of it, isn't it?
Yeah. When we get to your slide, sorry, did you want to do some actual live tinkering or just talk about your two teams?
No, I don't think so. Just because the internet probably won't support it. But
okay.
I think when we've tried it, you kind of click on something, it takes about a year to come off. But
yeah. Okay, so this is the summary of my tinkering at the moment on Wednesday night where I am at. And we sort of chatted about this quickly on WhatsApp, didn't we? And said, shall we just do a slide each of what our thoughts are and just kind of treat it, present it how you like. So this is what I've done. 15 players down the right and down the left in green, and then kind of my thoughts for each position. If they've got a star next to their name, they're a doubler. And then my conclusion team at the moment is in the not maybe biggest font in pink in the middle. Just got the fixtures on the right just to help me sort of compare. So just go through it. Goalkeepers, I'm thinking Pickford over Martinez, but probably one or the other. And then probably a sub, a cheapy keeper. But if you had cash to spare, then you might as well go with Foster or something. He's only marginally more expensive, and Watford have got an okay fixture. Defence, I think you've got to have a Villa player, at least one. I think you've got to have a Liverpool player, depending on what happens in the cup final. And I think I've got either a City defender here or a Spurs defender. Maybe we should add Chelsea in there as well.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm going to play a back four, so I'm going double Villa and Pickford in goal, and then covering Robbo, Cancelo for the big teams. And then I've got a midfield four. I think you've got to have some Liverpool cover. So as we discussed, either Salah, Diaz, or Jota, maybe Mane, but he's so expensive. I think you just go Salah. Son or De Bruyne. A Villa player probably. I've got that slot with Coutinho or Buendia or Trincao, but I think that could easily be bench fodder. I think Zaha's a lock, and I don't see any replacement for him. And then someone cheap, probably playing, or a first bencher, Gordon or Brownhill. No surprises there. And then up front, I don't know why I've only got 2 slots. That's a typo. Richarlison or Kane, and then Watkins or Ings. But I think actually it could be any combination of those 4 players up front in 3 slots, or a bench fodder. And then my conclusion team at the moment is in pink there, which has got some captain, 4-4-2. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I'll just read the team out for you as well. So it's Pickford, Digne, Cash, Robbo, Cancelo, Son captain, Salah vice, Zaha, Gordon playing, and then Kane and Richarlison vice. Oh, you've got two VCs or potential VCs, I guess.
Yeah.
And then bench is Brownhill, 4.4 forward. There is a 4.4 forward now, isn't there?
Yeah. I just didn't write Richardson because I thought it was confusing with Richarlison.
That's right. Yeah, fair enough. And then Klein as well. So I guess Vardy has to come into your thinking a bit, although he is that.
I don't think
forward.
so. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'd probably put him on the list just to remind myself, but I just don't see myself doing it.
Just to remind yourself not to buy him.
Well, I have been guilty of, like maybe a bit with you, Liverpool. If you don't have it written down, there's so many players flying around my head. I don't want to forget one, so maybe you should add him to the list. Yeah. But I don't think it'd be high up.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because even the likes of Cancelo, and he's got the assist and the clean sheet tonight, and obviously not 3 bonus points, but just it just feels so. It's like that Salah versus Son pick. It's just feels to me boring to have like Cancelo and Trent. It's just those shields, isn't it, versus swords, and I just feel like, especially now, if it turns out I am kind of around 3K, I wonder whether I will just go for it, because I think the chances of me dropping out of the top 10K are pretty slim. I guess it'd be nice to finish in the top 5K, but I just think going against like the Cancelos and Trents, and especially because it is squeaky bum time, they could concede. Whereas I think if you manage to get 2 clean sheets out of a Villa defender or an Everton defender with these home fixtures, that is going to be quite a big differential against those people who can't get to them because they're not on free hit, or they didn't want to risk going without a Liverpool defender or a City defender. I mean, there's a chance. It's difficult to see with Liverpool, especially when they've got FA Cup final, potential Champions League final, etc., or definite Champions League final, but whenever that is, that would you go Robertson over Trent because you think Robertson's now had the rest, or is it a bit concerning that he wasn't even in the squad for Villa?
Well, that team at the bottom is 0-0 in the bank.
You've got Robbo in there. Yeah, fair enough.
That's with a 3.9 keeper. So, there's a bit of wiggle room with Klein. He could be Simicast, so that can be 0.5, but not enough to get to Trent. So, no, I'm not too worried. I think Robbo's had his rest, and that's it. But yeah, it's true. You could triple up on both of Villa and Everton, and that would be bold. The problem with that is then you can't have Richarlison and or Watkins and Ings. So I think doubling's okay. I'm only one player away from doubling there.
Yeah, I don't think I would triple. I think with Everton you'd have Pickford, and then you're right. I don't think their defensive options are great. And when you're looking at like Holgate over Cancelo, it's not much of a Holgate's ceiling is is that he's going to get 12. Cancelo could get more than that in one game, couldn't he? So
I think your biggest sneer came when I said Gordon. Are you not feeling that at all?
No, I mean, again, I think it's just because he's so cheap, isn't he? But he actually has been one of their highest performing players, isn't he? Let's have a look at his returns.
Just that Goodison Part 2 fixtures, that's going to be absolutely rocking there.
Yeah.
That, Brentford are going to turn up and be confident, but it could be, there could be goals in that game.
Demarai Gray is still their highest scoring midfielder. It just shows, doesn't it?
Wow.
So this is the thing, right? I mean, maybe I don't know where this comes from, but Gordon in the last, since game week 26, so in 11 game weeks, he's got, and I say 11 game weeks, it's more than that in fixtures, isn't it? Because they double 29, double 31, double 36. So what is it? 13 games, say.
Right.
He's got 1 goal, 1 assist.
Yeah, it's an interesting sanity check.
And this is the thing, like it's very binary. You look at these zeros and ones, there are a lot of zeros. He got an assist in game week 31 for a 5-pointer, and he got a goal in game week 32 against Man United at home for a 10-pointer because he got 3 bonus that game as well. But other than that, he's had no bonus and no other returns. So it's just like that. That's why it's my sneer. It's a bit like, it's why I wanted to not have Dewsbury Hall in my. I brought him in. He was cheap, but I didn't want him in the team because it's so unlikely that he's going to get a return.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, I might need another midfielder spot to get KDB in, so I could just swap Gordon to KDB.
Yeah, and you'd have to do Kane down, I guess, to someone.
Yeah, Kane down. Wow. Yeah, that would be quite far down.
Ings.
Well, I mean, I'd have to then move some cash around, but
that wouldn't quite work.
No, it's a good observation.
That's why I just think those players, like if you get their once in a season goal, then you're absolutely loving it. But like, do you remember that game where I had Ramsey and he got 2 goals? Yeah. It's like, this is amazing. But outside of those games, they just don't do anything, these players.
It's fair. I mean, he's third on the midfielders. So it's putting it the same as Zaha, and there's no there's no comparison there on their goal scoring pedigree, which is a bit strange. I know
it's mad,
absolutely
isn't it?
love the
like,
RMT.
This is the thing about Rate My Team. I know you laugh at me because I always kind of do it down, but Zaha by comparison, since game week 26 has got a 15-pointer, 8-pointer, 8-pointer, 5-pointer, 6, and 11. So I can totally see why they think he's going to do okay, because he's got, in that time, he's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 7 goals. Interestingly, no assists. He's only got 1 assist this season, Zaha.
Right.
That's pretty mad. And that was all the way back in game week 4. There's not an assist since game week 4.
That's mad.
That is mad. But then I think because when you look back at his previous seasons,
he's very selfish.
His assists have been reducing.
Right.
So in 16-17, it's gone 11-7, 11-6-4 in the last 5 seasons. So it is reducing because he is obviously he's becoming more selfish, I guess. But yeah, that's interesting. 1 assist this season for Zaha, and they've had a good season.
I've enjoyed the sanity checking of the stats tonight. It has actually been useful. Things like Gordon. Yeah, that is fair. I think I have been swayed by that table, and a lot of people, eye testing him, saying the Everton revival. He's a young lad. He's coming through, but yeah, no, one goal, 1 return is not great.
I guess that's the other thing, isn't it, about XG and XGAs or XAs, that it might be that Gordon, his underlying, this is the thing about underlying stats, he may be due a goal. It's like, remember Joe's kind of goals imminent table.
Yeah.
But these players are judged by their actual goals and assists, and we only get points if they actually get a goal or assist. So, it might be that Gordon on the eye test is because I can't remember I saw a bit of an Everton game where he had a really good chance. It might have been Liverpool, and he just totally pulled it wide. But again, that's the difference between the likes of Son and the likes of Gordon, I guess, where they may get in these fantastic positions, but they're just not gonna do anything when they get there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So my teams, again, a lot of this will change, but these were just 2 drafts that I put together. So on the left hand side, we've got Pickford in goal, Trent, but I think again it's very sensible to try and get some budget by just changing him to Robbo, especially now that Robbo's had the rest. But we do need to hear that Robbo's not injured or something or is ill. But so Trent, Cash, Holgate, Digne, Salah, captain. Again, the captaincy button won't be on Salah because I'm just so bored of him. Son, Jota, Zaha, Kane, and Richarlison. And then the benches. It's interesting you were saying about having Foster if you've got the cash, because I've got Okonkwo, who's a player I've never even heard of before, who I think is an Arsenal keeper. But I just think in the double, you'd be so unlucky. First of all, you'd be unlucky for the player to get an injury at all, but you'd be, it would almost be unthinkable, I think, that they get an injury in training or in, before the game. Or not unthinkable, but very, very unlikely. So even if Pickford played for 10 minutes and then went off injured, you're still not getting your sub goalkeeper off the bench. So
Sure.
I just think you might as well go 3.9 there if you need the cash. But you're right. If you've got 3 million left over, you might as well get Foster, or 0.3 left over. Then I've got Brownhill, Kelly, and Richardson. So again, it's just the fact that I've got so many doublers in that team. I just think it's super unlikely that you'll need the bench. But if I've got a player like Jota, I guess, and he doesn't play, then yeah, maybe it is sensible to have a. I mean, that's why I've got kind of Brownhill there in that first spot. But for me, Brownhill is pretty commensurate to Gordon in terms of potential returns. So there we go. And then the team on the right is Butland in goal, and the thinking there over Pickford is that bit cheaper, and if Guaita is injured, he could be a good pick. But again, I just think it weakens the defense, especially if Gay's out as well. But then Cash, Cancelo. So I didn't have Cancelo in the other team. I think I probably should try and make sure I've still got him. Digne and again Trent. So it's kind of Cancelo there over Holgate. And then Salah, Son again, so the same, and Zaha, and it's Buendia instead of Jota. And then at front, Kane and Richarlison. So really the only real difference between the team is it's kind of Cancelo and Buendia versus Holgate and Jota. So I don't know which you prefer out of that, actually. But again, as I say, there's so much to change here because Trent down to Robertson gives me, another 1.3, is it? Something like that. Maybe it's just $1 million now, but to spend somewhere else. And, you make changes there. So they make such sweeping changes elsewhere, don't they? So
yeah, I like them both. Brownhill's a good gift, isn't he? Like 4.3. I think it is the cheapest midfielder, and he doubles, and he's been a bit more attacking, so he is a good no-brainer as a bench option. What was the other thing I was going to say?
I've got no, other than Buendia, I've got no Villa attackers in either of these teams. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think if your budget is tight and obviously you're squeezing in 3 big hitters in each, 4-4-2 is the way to go, isn't it? Getting that extra defender on, and you can get a defender doubling for 5 mil or less easy. That massively helps. Whereas midfield up front, you got Buendia, and the strikers are at least 7.5, so that massively helps with budget.
I don't know whether you can share my screen, but it would be interesting to see, and I'll put it on our Twitter anyway, but I would like to see what a team would look like without Salah and with De Bruyne instead, and then to see if I could also get Jota and Diaz in there as well. But maybe I'm stretching it, because I guess De Bruyne isn't that much cheaper than Salah, is he? So if it meant,
I think it's like 11.8 or something, so you get 1.4 back.
Okay, so I mean that's the thing. If you build a team that has Kane, Son, Jota, Diaz, Zaha, and De Bruyne,
it's 3-5-2, I think, or 4-5-1.
Yeah, but it could be pretty powerful, couldn't it?
Yeah. It's
I'm
probably.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it after this, but I'm looking forward to seeing if that team works, because I just think.
Yeah, technically that's going to be pretty difficult.
Not nice.
Not
nice to not have Salah, but I think the strength you've got in the other positions then is pretty exciting. So
yeah. No, I'm definitely going to have a feel of that as well afterwards. it's probably recency biased, and the De Bruyne thing will probably wear off. But there was a draft a couple of days ago I had where I was thinking either a Sterling or a Mahrez for the fifth midfielder spot, and I do wonder if City are just going to just try and batter these teams now until they get it done. And yeah, maybe a bit of a angry reaction from the Real tie.
Yeah, they are on fire, aren't they? And I just think it's mad, isn't it? Because Liverpool, I think I saw something, it might have been from Benny Blanco of all people, who said that this Liverpool side are one of the best teams ever, and they may be about to win 3 trophies, etc. But they're still behind City in the league.
I know,
so
yeah, that is mad. But they are a bit like City of old, sharing the goals out. At the moment, you just don't really know. I mean, Diaz and Mane are probably ahead of both. Jota's not a great finisher, and Salah's off form. Okay, he's on pens. It is hard to nail down where those goals are coming from. And De Bruyne has just shown that maybe it's, at least in the short term, quite focused at City.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see. It's very difficult to think where the league, if Liverpool do end up losing it, where they've lost it. But I just think the fact that City keep the ball so much more and the other team just don't get it. It just means that there's very, very little chance of City losing to a weaker team. But I think City have, on that clash of the correspondence, City have dropped. I think they've dropped 5 points to Palace. They've lost to Palace and drawn with Palace.
Right. Well, they've lost twice
to
Spurs.
Mad. I mean, yeah, lost twice to Spurs. So then you're like, well, I don't remember Liverpool dropping that many points.
No.
Do you remember games where Liverpool have dropped points?
Off the top of my head, no. Can't think of this time of night.
I mean, obviously they drew with City, but City dropped points in that as well. But yeah, I can't really think because they smashed Man United. I'm struggling to think of when Liverpool have lost games, but anyway, our longest one ever tonight, Shlee. So
yeah, it's actually a bit shorter than
timestamps.
I thought. Yeah, we'll get some timestamps on it tomorrow. Thanks to anyone that's made it all the way through there. Apologies if you found it a bit casual, conversational, I'm going to say, because we were flicking in between stuff. We were watching some of the scores come in. You were keeping tabs on WhatsApp channels and assisters and stuff, but it was good because it was all pretty fluid and organic as we're going through it, wasn't it? So I think that was quite useful and certainly helped me with my thinking a little bit. But yeah, a reminder that a Sunday deadline with that FA Cup final on the Saturday, it's going to be tough actually logistically for me because I'm travelling on Sunday, so I'm going to have to lock it in quite early on the Sunday and then just go for it and leave it. But
yeah, I think if you're like 90% there, and then you might just leave a few decisions for if the FA Cup final changes things.
I think I am pretty much there with maybe, let's say 7, maybe 8 starters, but then the other 3 could be, Kane could be in one slot or Richardson could be in that slot, and then in the midfielder slot it could be De Bruyne or it could be Gordon. So it's really one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah, they're pretty big changes, but
yeah, exactly.
I still stand behind it. I probably will get him in now, I think, if this works. But if you maybe put money on it, I'll say De Bruyne might get an assist in this game, but he's not getting goals.
Okay, if that happens and Kane does get that hat trick you've mentioned, I'll feel pretty guilty. So yeah.
No, I'm going to have Kane as well though. So
okay, right. Oh, you're going to sacrifice Salah. Okay.
It's more of Salah. I mean, this is the thing. Like Salah against Southampton, he could go absolutely nuts. But I'm just betting that he's still knackered. But if he's had a full rest now, isn't he? On top of his rest previously, so hopefully for him, he's back on form. But
yeah,
I don't know.
So we will speak next week when it'll be the last one. Yeah, I'll be away, but I should be able to do at least a short one. But I'll let you know. But thanks everyone for listening. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard. And we'll see how this free hit goes. Have you activated yours, Nick?
I have activated it, yeah. And stupidly, very, very kind of casual. I missed the price rise on Gordon on the Saturday night. Did you activate yours last Saturday?
No, I did on Sunday. Couldn't be bothered. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered, and I was pretty relaxed about it.
So we both missed Gordon's price rise then.
Nightmare. How can we live with ourselves?
That point one could be crucial. But yeah, I'd forgotten that you're away next week because it's your birthday, Mr. Shlee.
It is my birthday next Tuesday. It's come up quite quick, and yours is not too far away. Yeah, we should. Well, I might as well drop in a few more AOB into this episode just to go along with all the rest of it. But normally on your birthday, on years gone by, we I do a little card with a couple of stats in, don't I? FPL stats. So that's so there won't be any of that this year because all the energy will be going into the season review episodes instead. So you're just going to get a Freddo or something in the post.
Oh, I'll take it. But no, you always make me feel bad because your birthday's gone by and sometimes I haven't sent you anything, I haven't sent you a card, and then I get like a handwritten note, I get a card, I get stats, I get printouts of spreadsheets. I love it. And then I'm like, I didn't get you anything.
Yeah, I just realized actually I just totally forgot it. That's fine.
But I think last year, did I get you some beers last year or something? Maybe I didn't.
We met up last year, I think, to go to that pub down the road from you, I think. So that was nice.
Yes.
And you did give me some alcohol, I think. Thank you very much. Right.
No
anything
worries.
to add, Nick?
No, except happy birthday for Tuesday, Shlee, because I'll forget by then. So.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. And good luck with your game weeks. Cheers.